Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let's get ready to
She had a ball, and she was bulldozing them all by herself. To my future husband, if you're listening to this, I might be saying shit that you weren't expecting.
Hello. I'm Suswana.
And I'm Mehjabeen.
Are you ready to mumble?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you are also one of my bridesmaids. I now have had, I guess you're my fourth bridesmaid on here now at this point. So I really hope none of us fall out, because that would mean I would have to take this episode down. But welcome. How are you feeling?
Thank you for having me here. This reminds me of the last time I was on a podcast episode with you.
Yeah. We've done this a few times now.
Right. Yes. Feels great.
Yeah. Why don't we introduce you to the world?
Ooh. Yes. So, whenever I think of introduction in terms of this, you were one of my very first clients. When we go to back to the very, very beginning, when I first started the label fresh out of college, that's when I first met you too. So fresh out of college, I had, plans to take a year off, go to law school. And then, we're getting into it, clearly.
Yeah.
I quickly realized this is what I've wanted to do for a really long time.
By this, you mean fashion?
By this, I mean run a fashion label, be a designer. This is something I've wanted to do since fourth grade, third grade, from, as far back as I can remember. But, parents weren't too happy about it. I was not feeling it because I was also, a nerd and I wanted to study. I enjoyed studying. So I also wanted to do something academically. So, being a designer didn't really fall into that category. Yeah. And then all throughout college, that's what I was doing. I was making a lot of outfits for me, for people. And
I bought my engagement lehenga from you. This was, mind you, I was not in any type of relationship. In fact, I had gotten out of a relationship. And I was like, yeah, let me buy this lehenga that I want to wear as my engagement ceremony lehenga. And then I ended up...
And you were so serious about it?
I was so serious about it. And to this day, I haven't worn it to any parties. I've definitely done a lot of photo shoots in it.
Yes.
But I haven't actually worn it out because I still am holding on. This lehenga that I bought, I don't even know what year that was. That was
2016.
2016.
Yes.
It is 2023.
7 years. Ooh.
I am still not in a relationship.
We're going to have to revamp that outfit, by the way. We're going to, the colors were so beautiful and everyone else was going for, the more, not glitzy, pieces that had more work. It was so simple, understated, but really elegant. Greens, purples, things that you really love, jewel tones. And you went right for it.
We have some mutual acquaintances, and so that's how I found you, was on Instagram, because they had promoted your page. I looked at the lehenga, and it was that lehenga specifically, and I immediately DM'd you. I was like, I want this. Give it to me.
And I remember we worked on that for weeks.
Yeah.
And before you decided, okay, this is what we want.
Yeah. I think I've had this conversation with pretty much most of the people that have been on this podcast so far in terms of immediate connection.
Yes.
Because I think it was the second fitting where we sat down at the cafe and just talked for hours.
Yes. Oh my God, that meeting, so much comes back to my mind. As soon as you said introduce yourself, that was that meeting that was coming up in my head, and I was like, ooh, introduce myself. And you were such, still are such a, integral part of the label, especially the way it happened. And now going from being a fashion designer, I also, because it actually started from wanting to solve problems, problems of not finding outfits that really spoke for who we are, being a part of outfits that reflected that part of the culture that we relate to, but then also parts of our life that are not related to our culture, but it's still very much who we are. We couldn't find clothes that reflected that sentiment, and that's how it started. And then also having that, like, one size fit all that we get at stores. But then also now I am a licensed esthetician, which also came from, me wanting to like solve people's problems. I've suffered with, cystic acne almost all of my life, but I've also seen people suffer with acne and, things related to like scalp and hair losses for years. Problems that I think can easily be solved, but, that's a whole another story. But like, the way the healthcare system works here, the way, seeing a dermatologist works here, let's not even talk about how expensive that is. So I was like, you know what? We need to do something about this. That, like, so I do both of those things now. But the label does take up most of my time. But the aesthetics clinic is, kind of like the new baby. It's the newborn that I have to nurture more. But like, going back to the label, like, we haven't had that. Now there are so many brands, right? But I have taken a break, unfortunately, because of, circumstances in my personal life. And then also there was a point where I was doing anything and everything everyone else wanted me to do with the label. I was doing off shoulders for like one collection. And let me tell you, I was not feeling that collection at all.
Yeah.
Every single time, like, I put on that outfit on a model or anyone, it just didn't feel like who I was. So in many ways, I think, and I think, I also speak for you in this sense that, like, I think we both found out who we are through a lot of our work.
Yeah.
Through the work we do.
I remember it was funny. I was thinking about this story this morning when I was putting on this blue lipstick, but I remember when I first, like, years ago, when I first started doing these like unusual lip colors, and my mom would freak out. She like really didn't like it. She just thought it was too weird, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like do a red, do a pink. Like what is all this blue, teal, orange business?" But for me, and I know that when I first put on teal lipstick and I like walked out of the house with it on, I was definitely super self-conscious. For like the first like 5 minutes, I was like, "Oh, are people looking at me?" And then I was like, "Nah, but I want people to look at me, so
I'm wearing it for a reason."
And now that's like sort of become my signature, and I definitely like, and then with working with you on like my different outfits and also just, helping you with the label however I was able to, like, I just realized how important my appearance is to me in terms of like the clothes that I'm wearing and the earrings that I choose, and what my makeup looks like, not from like I need the validation, but from this is my outward expression of who I am in the inside.
Yes, definitely. And I remember that, I think, we might as well talk about the fact that, being South Asian, it comes with being a part of a territory. Like, you work with MUAs, you work with other artists. They have this idea of like what South Asian makeup would look like, what South Asian makeup looks would look like with certain outfits. But then, with you, we have always, I have never felt the need to, like, it doesn't even come to my head that, we're just gonna like straighten her hair for this look. Like, I've loved your naturally curly hair. I like you. We have always worked with it, and it looks beautiful. I know, from experience, you don't like really bold eyebrows.
Yeah.
You want them a certain way, and then we've always gone like very natural, minimal. But like that's you, and if someone else prefers to express themselves in another way, I would, we would be happy to do that. But like, I think it's whether it's from a business perspective or from a personal perspective, as a friend who also runs a label, and then you're wearing their creations, it's really understanding who people are and where, their, what's that word? Help me out here. what their choices look like, what their way of expressing looks like.
You mentioned in the beginning that, you got out of college, you realized that you wanted to have your own fashion label. What was the path then to you starting the label? And because I've been part of that journey with you, and it hasn't been an easy one. So do you want to talk about how you've dealt with just like the mental health part of it? And because I know that you were like sort of working yourself to the bone and getting
in the hospital.
sick.
Yep.
And that wasn't working.
It wasn't working. Looking back, one of my proudest moments is getting to a point where I have prioritized myself, my health, and my mental health, but also, sadly, most importantly, my physical health. I can't think back to a time where that was ever important.
Yeah.
Especially, when you run a business, doesn't matter how many employees you have, even if you do have one, at the end of the day, if you're a founder, you're working around the clock.
Yeah.
And if you don't find a way to like take breaks, your body will take that break for you. Mentally, I wish it wasn't that. It's not more so that the workload or the journey itself that takes a toll. It's being brown, being a woman, of color, doing something in the creative field, that comes with its own sorts of challenges, as you know it very well.
I remember when I first told my dad that I wanted to be a producer and like do TV and film, and he was like to me, they're never gonna let you. He was like, that's a white world. They're not gonna let you in.
You're not gonna be successful. These are the things you hear.
And it was interesting. My brother had a different perspective. He didn't think I had the grit for it. And I just remember they both told me that at the same time, because I told them at the same time. And I was like, okay, cool. You don't have to believe in me. And I mean, my dad wasn't wrong though. Like, white people don't want me in their world. And I have continuously put myself into those spaces, and
You have
forced myself into those rooms and dealt with uncomfortable situations and conversations. And I've done my best to try and call out things when it, I remember after the whole George Floyd situation, the way that the place that I was working at the time, they sort of pulled the thing that all corporations were pulling, where they were like, oh, let's hear from our Black employees now, for the first time. And they wanted me to lead a conversation with the only Black man on our team. And I was like, this is laughable.
wow.
And I was like, but I started that conversation. I talked to, my colleague, and he was like, no, we can do it. And I was like, okay, fine. But I started that conversation being like, what he and I are about to talk about, we are not here to make you feel comfortable. We are not going to assuage you of any of your guilt. And if you've just become more uncomfortable, sit with that shit.
Yes, please sit with their discomfort. Like, even the race obviously is like, that big factor that's in everyone's face. Like, we're brown, people see that. But then also there's that other territory of being brown and a woman.
Yeah.
that's a whole different topic, especially like, from personal experience. And I'm sure, you relate to this very well as well, very much as well, is that everything we do, we have to make sure we do it well. We have to make sure we do it perfectly. We do it without mistakes, because every single thing will be highlighted in neon colors.
Yeah.
And that's how it's been. And that is what takes such a massive toll on your mental health, with the challenges of running a business, with the challenges of running a business as a South Asian, something that's marketed towards a very small, albeit like really targeted demographic. My audience is, a group of women, or, people who identify as South Asian, people who understand that work, people who understand that, South Asian clothes not necessarily have to look one way or the other. It's not a lot of people. It's not. And then all the challenges that come with that, on top of that, being like constantly told, you wanted to be a lawyer. What the hell are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
You were so good academically. Is this something that, you're going to do for the rest of your life? Because, it's not serious. We don't think it's serious. And then my dad, who ran successful businesses in his entire life, said, if I couldn't make it work through the end, I don't see you working through it.
Yeah.
Making it out in the end. And that's when I was like, it does make you angry, but it also makes you really sad that like you really are on your own. I think that really took a huge toll on my mental health. But I think I have come to this radical acceptance, this point in life, mentally, where I know that I do this for me, but I also do this for women who might want to be me, women who look at me and say, who might want to say, I can't believe you did this. I'm so proud of you. And I get so many of those DMs. And, it's one of my biggest source of inspirations, my DMs. Strangers and people I know, both, they leave me such kind messages, and then I put them all in a folder. I think the only way to make out of this alive, when you run a business and when you do things that's considered out of the ordinary, you really have to find your reason. But it was a battle.
Yeah. Finding your reason. Holy shit. Yeah. I mean, it's like, because any day you can wake up and just be like, and just stop and never start again. It's so easy to stop. You have to, and I think even for me, yeah, for sure, like I have the burnout phases and the moments where I haven't listened to my body, and I can't even, I used to pull all-nighters, right? Like I would be up for 72 hours straight, just trying to like meet deadlines and, put on a fucking gala. And but now it's, if I try to not sleep, I get really horrible anxiety attacks. Like my entire body will start shaking, and like my head will get so heavy, and it's just like not worth it. Like, I'm just like, okay, like I still want to do these things, right? Like my reason has always been to do everything for us, by us, right? Everything is in service to our communities, and that still holds true. But like I don't need to kill myself doing it. Like I don't need to be a martyr.
And also, like, I think in many ways we're both perfectionists, and we struggle with that a lot. And that comes with that, whole idea in the back of our heads that we have to prove ourselves. I think there is a way to do what we do it well.
Yeah.
In a way that satisfies us and, our peers who are in, who would also prove that this is how things should be done, without killing ourselves, and then also the thing that you were saying about, like, we can easily just wake up the next morning and not do this.
Yeah.
No one talks about how difficult it is to start over. especially with, you know, our line of work, you know, or even a 9 to 5, any work, like, you know, you stop working full time and then, you know, go back to working full time. It's difficult. You stop, you know, working for your business or your, you know, ventures. It's really hard to do it, but it's especially hard when you're in charge of making all the decisions. Having to like wake up and really look back and take inventory of all of your mistakes, all of the ways you could have done it better, because you are constantly thinking that there is a better way to do this.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really hard. But then
Shit, that hit. Take inventory of your mistakes. Fuck.
but then also your successes, right?
Yeah.
What did we do well? I think I learned this last year where I was having a conversation with you, and I think that was one of the first times I really started looking into, what am I doing well? What can we do more of? Because like it's that self, you know, critic in me, as if I'm not already getting so much of it from every angle.
Yeah.
And then that's a way, you know, to keep it sane, to keep ourselves grounded, because you're gonna be torn apart. The world's gonna tear you apart. You're gonna tear yourself apart, and you're gonna have to find ways to just.
Yeah. You and I were talking before we started recording about how like we forget everything that we do.
Oh God, girl.
And so actually something that I've been doing since last year is like because you know I use project management systems, and so when a project is completed, like I mark it as complete, but I like have that like row of completed projects like shown, so that like every once in a while like I can see literally everything that has been done and I can just be like, oh shit, that's right, I did that thing and I've done all these things, and like I am moving forward, and like it hasn't all just been me sitting on the couch watching TV. And so I think that like visibility of it like just being in my face also helps with like, you know, just the mental shift, and you know, like a vision board, right? Like just having it something that you see every day to like just remind you of, and that's subliminal messaging. So
Yes, absolutely. And I think I live and breathe Trello. Like,
oh, I know.
yeah, you know.
I hate Trello.
A lot of people either love it or hate it, right? It's there, it's visible. But I think it's also really hard sometimes to, like, you have your job responsibilities that's related to, like, you know, what you do full time. Projects, it's really hard to, like, put that in a box, like, this is what I do. Like, you know, when someone says, like, you know, what do you do? It's like that, it's that weird space that, you know, for a lack of a better word, it's that, like, space that we have to be in where, like, you know, it's like this / that / like so many things. Who are you?
I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? What do? I do everything.
Yeah, everything
eat.
and anything.
I live, I work,
I produce, I dance. Yeah. And, you know, that's like a part of your life that, like, you know, a lot of people don't know, a lot of people don't see. And it's just so hard to just put a label on it. Like, this is what I do. So, like, I think, you know, interdisciplinary artist is a great way of just going about it. And I had to bring that up because it's like.
Yes. I have very much. It was just like I would be writing my bio and I'd be like, I feel weird categorizing myself as just a producer or just a writer or, you know, whatever it was that I was trying to categorize myself as. And so I think for a while I was going with like multimedia journalist because I was focusing on my journalism career. And then I was like, and then eventually, recently I like finally landed on interdisciplinary artist because I was like, I am an artist first and foremost. I create art. I am a dancer. And I am also a poet, and
you direct.
And
a lot of things.
Yeah, I direct, I produce, and so I work across disciplines. Anytime like I meet somebody new and they ask that question, what do you do? And I'm like, well, what part of me do you care about? Because because we're gonna be here for a while. All right, well, thank you. That's all the time we have for this episode. I love you. Subscribe, rate, comment wherever you are watching, listening to this. Peace.